Governor Sean Parnell.
Uh-huh.
It's almost as if, and I'm just being hypothetical here, it's almost as if he used to work for an oil company.
What do you mean used to?
What do you mean hypothetical?
Now, can you speak freely? Because I know you're in a delicate position, all right? Because you still need to work with the administration, but wow.
Well, I guess the way I would couch it is, I mean, I understand trying to drive investment if you kind of fall for, to me, the whole argument is built on the fear that throughput in the pipeline is going down to such a point that it won't be able to flow anymore.
Right.
I don't believe that is, I don't fall for that, which I think is kind of a scare tactic.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, if that were the case, yeah, we probably got to do something to help make sure that oil is going to flow. But I just think, I mean, I also understand completely the oil companies' positions, because if I was them, I'd probably be doing the same thing.
Well, sure. Listen, they're a business. And if you're in a business, you do what? Make money.
Yeah.
That's your job. And no one can blame them for that. I do not begrudge the oil and gas companies for doing that. What I dislike is our elected officials helping them make their money.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. That being said,
yes. But where are the ethics complaints? This guy is blatantly a lobbyist for the oil companies, and he's sitting in the governor's mansion. Where are all those ethics complaints?
Right. Well, but I think he can still take the position he's taken. I'm not going to try to take the governor on this one so much as I'm going to take on the whole, crux of the argument, and that is, how do you give them back $2 billion, and maybe now it sounds like it's more than $2 billion a year.
Yes.
Without getting any kind of commitment.
Nothing.
That they're going to drill new wells and that they're going to hire Alaskans to do it.
Yeah,
because
there's nothing there. Nothing.
Well, and they have a lot of figures that show that they have good Alaskan hire, or non-resident hire is down. Well, I don't know that that's true. And if you look at a company, any of them that work a lot of people here in Alaska, they've got big operations right here in Midtown that got hundreds or maybe thousands of employees working there that are probably Alaskans. But when they do their numbers on non-resident hire, they throw all those Anchorage folk into it. They're not really including the people that are working up on the slope, which if I had to make a guess, I'd say it's 50% or higher of non-residents.
Wait a minute, you're telling me people fudge numbers?
Well, you never know. But here's the big thing to me, and I've actually had to start doing a lot of research because we're getting lobbied to support this. And I said, well, we can't until we see that there's a commitment to drilling and to jobs for Alaskans. But to me, I saw a presentation by the guys that are doing all the drilling in North Dakota.
Yeah,
right. Where they're saying, "Oh, North Dakota's going to kick our ass."
Right.
They're going all the, and I watched it and I went, "Huh." Now they're drilling in 50-year-old fields that they basically said were kind of dried up and stopped drilling in the late 50s. That's when they had their big boom in North Dakota.
Right.
And it's this new technique of fracking for oil.
Oh, okay.
That has unleashed all these reserves that were all just sitting there anyway.
Right.
And now they said, "Oh, we've got 3 to 4 billion barrels now."
Right.
No, they were always there. They could just get at it now.
Right.
Well, we have the same situation on the slope.
Yes.
And this new company called Great Bear LLC is probably making the big companies a little uncomfortable because they're going, well, in a couple of years we're probably going to have 200 to 400,000 barrels a day ourselves. And we'll probably get up to 600,000, and we think we're being conservative.
That's right.
And that's in the existing known fields. And when they say they're not doing it, they say, "Oh, we only drilled one new well last year." Mm-hmm. Well, that's new exploration. They have drilled like 140 last year, but they were in fields that they know there's reserves there, so they drop them in there. It's not considered new exploration.
That's right.
So it's kind of, they tell the story the way they want it to make their case the best, but. So far, I'm not convinced that they're going to reinvest, that they're going to hire Alaskans, and that there's really the problem that exists with getting new oil into the pipe.
And plus, why would the Spanish company Repsol commit $768 million saying Alaska is the greatest place to do business because it's safe
and stable? Yeah, they just pulled out of Libya, right?
Of course.
Yeah, and now they're going to go up here. Well, because they're not one of the big three. Who's,
But that's because we don't have maniacs shooting missiles at our rigs on the North Slope.
And a couple weeks ago, I think in the Senate side, I think it was Finance Committee, they had Department of Revenue or somebody did a presentation that said, hey, wait a minute, and the senator said, look, they got $3 to $4 billion in tax credits since ACES went into effect. But what did they do with that?
That's right.
We don't know.
You don't know?
We can't tell you. I have no idea. Well, did they do new drilling? Obviously not.
Well, wouldn't that be cool to be in a business where you could just not know where a couple $1 billion went?
Just
they know damn good.
Of course they do. And why do you think it is Exxon won't release what they make in Alaska?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely know we have to work with the oil companies. They fund the state. There's no doubt.
Right.
But to me, this is just like collective bargaining. You're trying to make. You're not gonna play all your cards. You're gonna do what you can to get the best deal for your side of the table. And they're just doing what they do. Like you said, their profit is their maximum motivation. But this is not. It's almost exactly. There's a new movie that just came out called Statehood. It's on NPR. I saw it on NPR. And it talks about, there's this quote in there that says, a big slick advertising is going on by the industry that talks about if they don't, if we tax them too high, you don't want to kill the goose that lays the golden egg, they'll pull out of here. And I was talking to Mark Hamilton, former president of the university, who's now the main mouthpiece for the MAC committee.
Yeah, that really hurts my heart.
Yeah, and I said, hey, Mark, where did that quote come from? What industry were they talking about? He goes, well, they were talking about the oil industry. I said, no, they were talking about the fish processing industry and mining, and this was, Ernest Greening and Bob Bartlett back in the 1930s and 40s. It's the same thing. They make the same argument all the time.
So they're using a quote before the oil and gas was even discovered to make their argument. And I think Mark Hamilton is a brilliant man.
Yeah.
But when I found out at a function that he was the guy, it really hurt my heart.
Tony Knowles.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that I had a little conversation with him in a meeting. He met with about 80 labor folk in Fairbanks last week, and I showed up. And I said, Mark, I respect you tremendously, and you've always had tons of integrity. But when you were on Channel 2 News, and they interviewed you and rolled this out, you said unions. The first words out of his mouth: unions and businesses, support this MAC committee. And I said, unless the Teamster had a mouse in his pocket. Because Ricky Boyle's a good friend and a co-worker that runs the Teamsters put his name on there on that steering committee, and a lot of his big employers are on there. So, I think it makes sense for him to pay attention to what's going on there. But he's the only guy in the only union that has put their name, associated with that committee. And so, and I said, look, we're just not in a position. You haven't convinced us that we need to be on that side, because we do have an obligation to look out for what's best for Alaskans. Period.
Right.
That's the reason. Constitutionally, we're the only state in the union that has the ownership rights to what's under the land.
Correct.
And that's the other thing that makes people go to Texas and North Dakota is they just walk up to old Billy Bob and say, "Hey, looks like you got some land we might like to drill. We'll give you some money, and can we drill it?"
Right.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Have at it.
So
the thing that drives me nuts about this whole argument is there are no guarantees for the state if we do this.
Well,
it's all on a hope and a handshake. Well, that doesn't work.
No.
And it hasn't worked. We had Senator Bill Wielechowski in here with numbers and facts that show that no matter, even if we give them up to almost 0% taxes, it still doesn't make a difference.
Well, in the past, the record would show that even when they had really low taxes, they still didn't drill necessarily. They went to other places, in the world. But the other thing is that those billions of extra dollars, if you want to call it that's coming in because of ACES right now, those are going to capital budgets, which means they're building big construction projects.
Right.
Those are jobs I can look at and I can count and I can see Alaskans working on them.
Right.
And if you throw back $2 billion a year, you've just cut out who knows how many construction projects.
Right. We're getting cut on both sides of the sword.
Yeah. So why give up a known for a completely unknown?
Right.
And I doubt that when Conoco pulls $1.75 billion in profit out of a field that they're just by having a pipe in there that's pumping, that they're going to let that run dry.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think what we're all agreeing here is that it's all a bunch of BS.
Yeah.
And it's really nicely packaged. The commercials with the little girl are really emotional. The pamphlets are really shiny. Mm-hmm. But hey, listen, if it smells like a turd, looks like a turd, feels like a turd, it's a turd.
Yeah, I just think, Alaskans need better answers, more convincing. They got to make a case that has commitments, and so far they say, well, we're just unable to make those commitments.
Right.
Well, I don't understand that.
I don't get it either.
And actually, if they want, to me, I said, well, why instead, if you want lower tax rates or whatever, they want to give them some kind of credit to invest, have it based on the amount of barrels that's flowing through the pipe. Say, okay, well, if you explore,
right,
and if you start putting another 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 barrels a day, then we'll give you a break because you did what you said you were going to do.
Right.
Because I think they can probably afford to drill and carry the burden of those expenses, much of which gets reimbursed by the state anyway, until they get that oil flowing. Yeah. And then we could give them the breaks.
Until they give us a guarantee, I'm sorry, I can't help you.
Right. Yeah. Or you know what? Hey, if you're telling us we're running out of oil, then we better tax you at 90%.
That's right.
We better get everything we can while it's there.
Yeah, yesterday we pumped out Alaska's total production yesterday was 650,000 barrels.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, maybe we should jack that up.
Yeah.
And then say, hey, but if you go explore over there, then we'll lower it.
Right.
And Norway, who has a similar tax structure.
Oh, my God.
They've got $425 billion in their, what's like their permanent fund.
Well, sure.
And
it's working for them, buddy.
It's working for them.
Yeah.
Free health care.
Yeah. Listen, hey, you are anti exploration. You don't love the state.
I love the state.
Everybody's going to fall into the ocean if we don't just give them that money on the hope and a prayer that they're going to start getting more oil.
It just seems like they're the ones who are anti-exploration.
Well, yeah.
We're pro-exploration. We want you to do it.
Drill, baby, drill.
Yeah, please. Please drill.
All right.
And not to mention the offshore stuff. I mean, what Shell has under lease right now, there's
absolutely.
It's bigger than Prudhoe ever was. It's like double the volume if they're allowed to drill.
That's the other part of the equation. We got to unlock a lot of those lands and the offshore that, Interior and the rest of those suits in D.C.
Could you call your buddy Barack and make that happen?
Well, actually, that's one of the things if people try to paint us as, anti-industry or whatever, I'm working real hard and have been. I'm going to be on a panel with a guy whose guts I hate, John Stossel from Fox Business.
Oh, John Stossel.
In some Washington Post big conservative blah blah guy, and me and a couple of governors encouraging offshore exploration. So we're doing what we can to try to help, and of course the only reason they asked me to be on there is because they think, well, maybe that guy from labor has can help with the administration.
You know what you should do? John Stossel's known as the guy who got slapped in the face by the wrestler. You remember that? he did an investigative thing for 2020.
He said it was fake?
He said it was fake, and it was Dr. Death, and he smacks me. He goes, how's that, boy?
How's
that
feel?
fake?
Does it feel fake?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would probably help reinforce the image of labor.
Hang on a second. This number's been trying to get in. You're on with Vince Beltrami, President, AFL-CIO, and the Bob Mark Show. Who is this?
Hey, this is Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Bob.
Hey, how did Mike die?
Mike Starr, overdose.
Oh, okay, right. So he died here in Anchorage?
No. He died in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Well, you know how the cycle goes, right? The garbage that's on the street, people get used to garbage, and then something really good comes along, and that that's what does people in. They're used to taking something that's not as potent, and then.
Right.
I got you, man.
Something really strong.
Right. I hear you, bro.
Yeah, so Conoco shouldn't be shooting up anything pure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So our governor needs to get the...
Yeah, you got to cut that stuff. Cut that stuff.
Well, and then, right now, there's some crazy stuff going around right now in Anchorage, so,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, man.
Oh, yeah. I hear there's some Charlie Sheen out there.
Ooh, some Sheen.
Right on, Mel. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, buddy.
Not to diverge.
That's welcome to ADD Radio. All right. Well, hey, I appreciate your time, man.
Yeah.
It's getting nice out.
Yeah. I know. I got to go see how much ice is in the bottom of my boat.
All right. I'm freaking out.
It's time.
I'm freaking out. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
All right,
buddy. That's Vince Beltrami, President, AFL-CIO. Callers number 4, 5, and 6 right now at 349-9691. ACES tickets free. Call now and win.
Bob and Mark. 106.5 K-Well.